Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I don't know if you're familiar with The Truman Show. It's not one of Jim Carrey's more famous roles, but I enjoy it, and so if you know the movie, you know the line. And anyways, I feel like it's been a lot of morning, afternoons, and nights. They've not been good, all rolled into this morning. It's just been one of those days. I'm not tired physically. I'm just tired emotionally, mentally. I finished this book, and it did not help my day. I will say I read this book probably in 3 days, not because it was good, not because I couldn't put it down, but because, one, I skipped. Like, I wanted to start skipping almost straight away, but I gave myself till halfway, hoping that it would get better, and it didn't. I just wanted to give it a shot, and anyway, so I did a lot of skimming. I didn't necessarily skip like I did with some other books, because I felt like the plot deserved more of my attention. It did not help my day. I mean, today was a family size of M&M's kind of day. I already had my Coke, but now I have my water, because it's easier to talk with water, and I don't want to feel too icky by gorging on too much junk food. Enough about my problems, let's get to the book. Today it's Hello, Goodbye, and Everything in Between by Jennifer E. Smith. I can't remember what led me to her. She has, I think, 3 books at this point. She might have more eventually, maybe by the time I publish this video. But I liked the ease of the plot. And so I was like, well, I'll just check all of them out, and for some reason I only checked 2 out. Although, after this one, I'm like, do I even want to read the other ones? Maybe I'll read the Statistical Probability of Love at First Sight, just because it seems to have rave reviews. It's even got Sarah Dessen up here raving about, well, not necessarily that book. Have you ever heard that some of those little blessings, the author has actually never read the book? So that's what I'm going to say about this. I don't think Sarah actually read this book. Part of what I liked about the premise, aside from it being simple and whatnot, is I thought it would be like Sarah Dessen. You can't see her right now. She's on this very top shelf. But I have a Sarah Dessen shelf because I feel like, because this is a little YA romance, and I feel like Sarah does such a good job giving her characters depth, and, you know, there's layers, and they're just not surface level characters. On top of that, she adds a plot. Sometimes it's a little more complex than others, but yeah, this one didn't have that. I liked the male lead. I did not like the female lead. But I think what bothered me most about it was the point of view, or their narration style. She did third-person narration, and I felt like it was really removed. Before I get into that, I should probably tell you what the book is about. It focuses on 2 characters, Aiden and Claire, and they are on the verge, or basically, literally the eve of going off to college. They have been dating for 2 years, and they essentially have to figure out, are we going to stay together or are we going to break up? Because she is going to college in New Hampshire, he's going to college in California. So it's the whole long distance thing, the whole, like, you know, this is my high school boyfriend thing. Should I carry that into college? It spans like the last 12 hours they have together. All the events that they experience are supposed to help them figure out, or actually, not them. I should say it's Claire. Claire is the one who wants to break up. Aiden does not. So it's kind of helping Claire make a decision as to whether or not they should stay together or they shouldn't. And it reminded me of Jay Asher's 13 Reasons Why, in how he blocked out his chapters and his scenes, whereas it's like you're in specific locations and each location has a meaning. And so that's what happens here. So each chapter is a specific place, and it gives you the time. So you're basically counting down till the end. That's where the similarities end. I don't think... I just don't think the storytelling was effective. Like I'd said, I felt like I was removed from the story. And I don't know if it's because that's the kind of character Claire is, or if it's because I prefer a more close narration. I would prefer first person narration, or even just like with Harry Potter, that's third person narration. But I really felt like I was in his head, that I was experiencing the story with him. But Claire, I just felt like I was watching her instead of being a part of her story. I really liked Aiden. I thought he had some levels there. Like, he seems to be this really goofy guy who doesn't care much about anything, but there's really more to him. He has a lot of troubles at his at home, and he has a lot of stress when it comes to his future. And then also, he doesn't want to break up with Claire, or he does not want them to be broken up. He wants to stick it out, to stay together, but there's a frustration because I can't say she doesn't want to stay with him. Like, she wants to be with him, but she has, and this is understandable, she has those questions as to, is it the right thing to do or not? Will this hinder my college experience? Will being so far apart damage our relationship? Is this whole high school love thing something that I need to continue, or should I give myself a chance to find somebody else? Anyway, so she has good reasonings, but he doesn't see those as issues. He's like, I want to be with you, so let's try to make it work. That's basically the thing, is from beginning to end, they are following her list of, or the intent is to follow her list of special places to their relationship, kind of relive things, see what happens in their dialogue and the way they feel, and see how that can then lead to a decision. About the halfway mark, spoiler alert, they break up. It's really subtle, actually. So when they actually said, hey, are we going to let people know that we're broken up? I was like, what? Granted, about this time, no, honestly, I stopped caring at the very beginning. But about this time is when I stopped giving the book any grace. And I was like, I just want to get to the end. Because I felt like, obviously, if they break up in the middle of the book, there's got to be more. There's half of a book left. So what is she going to be talking about? So I knew there was a possibility that the book could become interesting. So I was like, I'm going to keep reading. But honestly, it didn't. By the middle of the book, they had broken up and blah-de-blah-de-blah. Even by the middle of the book, they had stopped going or following her list. I think they went to 2 places on her list, and then after that, it all went haywire. My favorite part was probably when they went to the bowling alley, because that was the one time I really felt some emotion from Claire. She was invested in something. I just felt like we were removed because she was removed. I actually bookmarked. I bookmarked in a library book, like dog ear bookmarked, so that I could find my places. We'll go back to it, right? So, let me chew. I should not have eaten when I planned on saying something out loud. Alright, so Claire doesn't mind that he didn't end up applying. Not really. She knows that Aiden's best and worst quality is this, that he wants everyone to be happy. Blah, 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 blah. What is it? Claire asks when nobody else does. With both Aiden and Stella acting like jerks, she feels a sudden surge of affection for Scotty. You don't need to tell me how she feels. You, as in the author, don't tell me how Aiden feels. And I think that's why I connect with him more, because his actions and his words make me feel his pain, his emotion. Whereas with Claire, it's like, it's just so cut and dry. And the difference between the two characters is that he he does come across as a more emotional, carefree kind of character, whereas she has to have everything planned. And so, it very well could be that just goes in line with her characterization. So kudos to you, Jennifer E. Smith. However, I just don't feel like it was effective in getting me to connect with her. I know I'm in my mid-30s, but Sarah Dessen has no problem getting me to connect with her teenage characters, so I don't really think it's the age gap. I just think it's the writing style. Which reminds me, that's another issue I had with the novel, was it was very middle grade-ish in its execution. The sentence structure was very, not necessarily choppy, but there were a lot of short sentences. A lot of sentences that could have used a comma to elongate them. A lot of sentences started with but or and it just did not feel very mature. It did not feel YA. It felt middle grade. It felt like she was talking down to me in the way that she presented her storytelling. But back to Claire and Aiden. So, the bowling alley is really where I felt most connected to Claire. The only time I really felt connected to Claire. And that's because it, in my opinion, was kind of the most emotionally fraught moment in the book. It is kind of where Claire and Aiden come to a head, because we had just learned that, so the deal is he's going to UCLA, but his dad wanted him to go to Harvard. He lied about applying to Harvard, and therefore, he said he'd been rejected, which means he applied, but he never applied because of one reason or another. Anyways, so Claire, she feels slighted because they tell each other everything. She's like, well, why wouldn't he tell me? So there's this huge emotional scene where he is fighting with his parents, which we don't even see that. Like, we hear the parents fighting because they just learned that he lied. They accepted the fact that he wasn't accepted, but then they just learned that he actually never applied. So we hear a little bit of that, and then that leads into some backstory. And then they enter the house, and he gets sucked into their argument, whereas Claire goes elsewhere. So this leads into the bowling alley scene, where he's still really upset over what's gone on with his parents, and then they're upset with each other because Claire's upset that Aiden lied to her as well, and then he's upset because on some level, he did not believe she would support him in that. And this is something we get throughout the novel, in that she kind of wanted him to go to Harvard because it was closer to her, and that could have enabled them to keep this relationship. So in many ways, she was very selfish in her reasonings for wanting him to go to Harvard, even though she's out loud saying it wouldn't have mattered. He kind of picked up on that. Like, Harvard wasn't necessarily for him. Harvard would have been for her. But so he didn't really believe that she would have been supportive of the fact that he never actually applied to Harvard. Because if he had applied, then there would have been more pressure to choose Harvard because of her. So then we get into the bowling alley, and Stella is Claire's best friend. Scotty is Aiden's best friend, and they're always at odds. But anyways, Stella has been kind of MIA this last month, and it kind of has hurt Claire's feelings. And so they sort of come to a head. Like, they have this discussion in which Claire, the only time I really felt true emotion, she's kind of coming at Stella, and then she's like, well, maybe I just need you less. Walks away, finds Aiden over with Scotty and some of the other people who are bowling, and there's a little something that goes on between Aiden and Scotty that is also emotionally fraught. And then eventually Aiden leaves. And, he walks outside, and I'm like, leave them all, Aiden. Like, this is a no-brainer. Do not stay with Claire. She's incredibly boring. Like, why would you want to be with someone like that? I'm just vindictive. You know what? If you're mad, go. Leave her high and dry. She's not worth sticking around for. She finds him, and they talk, and he's still upset over what's going on with his parents. He's upset over the fight he's had with Scotty, and that boils over into some problems he's had with their relationship, and one of the big ones is that he, in a sense, feels like he has been more emotionally invested, like he has laid his heart out, and he has not gotten that in return. Largely, he had said, "I love you." We're not getting into that. So he had said, "I love you" very early in the relationship, and it's now 2 years later, and she has yet to say it. So he's kind of frustrated because he just feels like he can only say it so many times without hearing it back. They have this scene, and then I don't know. So that's kind of the end of where I was connected to anything in the story, because then they make up a little too quickly for my taste. Granted, not a very large book, so she's got to get things going. But I just felt like it was too easy, as is with everything in the novel. They make up, but then of course, like a chapter after that, they break up. I feel really bad about how I feel about this book, because it's not a bad book. This one is another that I do feel is personal taste, and so I don't want to be disparaging of somebody's hard work. I just feel like it doesn't need to be classified as YA. It is YA material, but it is not YA writing. I struggle with the second half of the book because they've already broken up, which is fine, actually. It's okay, because the book can go one or two ways. With they don't end up staying broken up, or they do stay broken up, but you can still get a lot of good stuff in this last half. What I don't really like or understand or wish had been done differently is that they just kind of carry on like they didn't break up. They still spend the rest of, well, it's not even the evening, because it starts at like 6. So it's going from 6 in the evening to 6 in the morning. So they spend the rest of, I guess, of the night doing stuff. I just didn't feel like there was a lot of tension. Maybe that's really the crux of my issue with this book. Outside of the bowling alley scene and one or two other parts, there's no tension in this novel. I mean, not even questioning, are they going to break up or aren't they going to break up? Because it happened so quickly. I just didn't feel like Claire was a character that Aiden should stay with. From the very beginning, I just thought she was really lackluster. The second half, I think I would have preferred if they had then split up and done whatever they were going to do, and then realized there's still some unfinished business, so we're going to come back at the last minute and we're going to sort things out, whether it ends nicely or it doesn't end nicely. That's not the point. But to then just, okay, so like they go ahead and they sleep together. I know this isn't a typical breakup, because neither one of you really wants to be broken up, but still, how does this help the novel? Honestly, I just don't get it. And it's not even a big thing. It's not elaborated upon. It's just implied that's what they've done. And I'm like, so and then it's not mentioned. Like, there's really nothing about their sex life in the entire novel, and then you get to this one, like, 3 paragraphs saying how they have had sex, and then they do have sex, and then we're on to the next event. So yeah, there's a lot of little things that, like I was saying with Jay Asher, I felt like each place the main character went, each side of the tape that he listened to had a purpose, and it propelled the novel forward. I don't feel like that was the best way to write this book, in saying, well, we're here and this is the time, because again, they stopped following Claire's list. So these places stopped having significance. So why do I need to know where they are? Why do you need to tell me? Why can't we just get there and then you explain it to me, show me rather than tell me? Another spoiler, if you haven't figured it out, they stay broken up. Although then we get an epilogue in which they essentially get back together. Whatever. I just never cottoned on to Claire. So I was actually disappointed that they got back together, this story just really was lackluster. It just disappointed. It's a very personal feeling. I do think a lot of other kinds of readers would just say, well, this was a nice, easy read. You're asking too much. Well, I don't think so. I really can't say much more. I mean, because there's not much plot. They just go around town with the intent of not rekindling, but reliving important parts of their relationship. They fail majorly because they only make it to 2 of those. Maybe they happen on other places just by accident, but the entire time it was really Aiden saying, do we have to break up? And Claire being like, well, is there really any point in staying together? I can only hear that so many times before you're beating a dead horse. It really was not the best book for me to read on a day like today, but I wanted to get through it because it's been on my TBR for a year now, maybe. So when I read a book like this, it's so discouraging to want to go ahead and read another one by the same author. I mean, maybe if I'd read a good one and then I'd read a bad one, then I'd still be willing to read and see if the next one is good. But I think I need to be in a better, I was going to say I think I need to be in a better frame of mind, but I don't have time for that because my library book's due in like a week. So we'll see. I'll crack it open. If it's not any good, I'm just going to say forget it. It's not worth my time. I have other books that'll be better. I think the writing killed this novel. If you agree, if you disagree, let me know. I'm always up for a lively discussion. Let's just not get personal. And I'll see you later. Bye.